Welcome to Stitching Tales, a podcast about all things sewing and what it's really like to run a sewing business, with your host Malena Hjerpe of Hazelhen Patterns and Johanna Lundström of The Last Stitch. Hey Malena.
Hello Johanna.
In today's episode we're going to do an update about something we talked about, was it 2 months ago maybe? Was it in the...
Yeah, might be. Yeah, time is flying.
Yeah, I know. Because in a while back, we did an episode where we talked about our upcoming book, To a T, a book about how to sew your own t-shirts with actual paper patterns included. And we did that episode because we had so many questions. And everyone was so kind and took the time and gave us lots and lots of really valuable feedback. So in today's episode we thought it would be good to do a follow-up and basically talk about all the things that we asked for, the questions and the answers we got, and of course what's happening with the book as well. And we're also going to do some screen sharing today, because you have some things to show us as well, Malena, when it comes to the patterns, and we have even more questions now that we want to be answered. So this is
it's funny how when you start working with something, then the real questions starts to come up. So we're definitely going to show some share the screen and so you can all see when we are working with the patterns and how that is looking. And we've got some questions and some follow-up questions on the questions we had in the last episode.
Exactly, and of course now it's the time to watch the video version, which you can do on Spotify and of course also on our YouTube channel, Stitching Tales Pod. Should we start by going back and talk a little bit about the questions that we asked and the feedback that we got? One of the questions that we asked was basically what to do about the seam lines or the stitch lines. Right, could you explain a little bit of the background to that question?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still not puzzled, but surprised how everyone wants to have the seam allowance line. And for me, it has always been like, but you have the stitch lines. That's the line you have. Then you can add on the seam allowance whatever you want. Like, that's not an issue. So that's always been my starting point, to want to have the seam line. Because that's when you construct a pattern, that's the line that you're working on. Then you add on the seam allowance afterwards, after you have done, or it can be in the process as well, but that the stitch line, that's the important line. And if you do any pattern adjustments, you want to measure the stitch line and you want to adjust it there, not the seam allowance line, because that gives a false indication of if it's a curved line, it has another measurement. So but a survey showed that 95% wanted to have the seam allowance line. So I was like, okay, well, we gotta follow the customer in this case. Okay, I hear you, but I don't want to lose the stitch lines. If you want to do some pattern adjustments or something, I want to still be able to provide them. But here we had to in the book, when it comes physical patterns, then we are going to have the seam allowance line. But since we want to offer PDF patterns as well, we have another opportunity then we can actually offer both. So then it was should we do it separate files, separate layers, how to do it? And I think we came to the conclusion that the PDF patterns, A4 letter size, that they come in 2 files. One that has both the seam allowance line and stitch lines. You have to use the layer function, otherwise it's gonna be a lot of lines. It's gonna be impossible to know which lines are which. So layer function is a must then. But then we're also gonna offer a PDF pattern when it's just a seam allowance line. So it's a little bit more clean and clear and easy to see. So we want to offer both. That we came to that conclusion because we have to have the stitch lines.
Yes, and it was so good. And it was also, I will say that a lot of people that got in touch and gave us feedback was very pro having the stitch line. So I will say that to your point there, that there was definitely, even though as we said, the polls show that the most important thing is the seam allowance, that is the most desired outer line. A lot of people really wanted to have the stitch line as well, because as you say, it makes alterations so much easier, and that's a good thing now, because when we're dealing with the print book, we are dealing with paper, finances, logistics, weight. It's so many like headaches that we're definitely going to talk more about in this episode as well, because we have more questions to ask you. But the good thing about that we will have this option in the book that you can click on, or you can go to a URL and download the digital files, is that gives us so much more opportunities to be able to serve you without making the user experience when you're tracing a paper pattern, it will cause a lot of frictions if you had to have all these lines. It's messy as it is right now, because we have things to talk about that in this episode for sure. So yes, I'm very, very happy that we ended up with this solution, separate files, so you don't have the exorbitant amount of layers. You can just switch which of the files that you want to do. So hope that this will satisfy all of you that were asking for stitch lines or seam lines. So thank you. Another topic
and
that we...
since we have the opportunity to provide files as well, we are going to make it into Projektor files also.
Yep.
So we can do that as well. But here I want to hear everyone's opinion about it. We came to the conclusion that maybe the copy shop file is not necessary then. If you already have bought a book, why would you want to have the copy shop file, the A0 size?
Yeah.
Yeah, the big format file. Like that would not be necessary, just to make it as clean as possible. If you get too many files, it kind of get overloaded. I think you don't really know which one to choose maybe, and so that one we are gonna skip, unless somebody has some other strong opinions.
Yes.
But since we have it provided as paper patterns this time as well, we think it cancels out the copy shop file. But if anyone has any other strong opinion, please share. Yeah.
We're always open to listening to the feedback. We might not be able to serve everyone, which we're definitely going to talk about more as well in this episode. So another thing that we asked about and that we were a little bit unsure about was sizing and what type of sizing system we should use. Should we use conversion? So for instance, on each pattern there would be a European sizing and a US sizing or UK sizing or whatever. And I will say that the overwhelming feedback that we got is that sizing is so arbitrary anyways, so just settle on one sizing system, and then of course show all the measurements, both for the size and of course the finished garment, in both metrics and imperial measurements, i.e. inches, and so that's what we landed on right now. So we're gonna have the, and of course when we say European sizing, it's very different depending on the country. So I guess this is like the Northern European sizing, which is from a size 32 up to 60, and that roughly converts. I don't have a top of mind on UK, but in the US it's size 0 to. Do you remember, Malena?
30. Because this was also a headache. Like when you try to like what is a size 30 in US, and I try to look at several different big companies, and everyone is doing it a little bit different. So in one country, one company would be like, oh, but it's a 28 then. But then when you look at others, it's like, no, it's definitely a 30. So then, because the conversion and the grading, it's not the same. We don't follow the same grading jumps. So obviously it can't convert like directly. So it made sense that, okay, we're going to stick to European size, since that is how it is graded in centimeters. and then you just have to measure your own measurements and see which size is your size. So I think that's going to be the clearest.
Yeah,
because otherwise it's also going to be like, are we going to have UK sizes as well, and American, US sizes, Australian sizes, like
yes. Or make up, and also we're also like, because I know some pattern companies, they make up their own sizes as well, like A, B, C, D, for instance. But we were like, I guess in our brain and the slope, because you, Malena, who are doing the patterns, you come from the garment industry and the sizing that is quite prevalent in the area where we live, so it's very easy to kind of rely on that as a tried and true sizing system that we know works for a lot of people in the mass market, so to speak. So to me, that's also, we're not making stuff from scratch. We are relying on something that has been developed over decades to ensure that it's a well-fitting for a lot of different body types. And also we're also really happy now that this, because normally with a lot of knit garments that you buy in stores, there's a larger jump between each sizes. So it's usually like X small, small, medium, a large, XX large, etc. And that means that between each size it's usually more ease, but now we have quite a small amount of ease between each sizes, so it's going to be easy to find your well-fitting size, because the fact that we're offering so many sizes with just a smaller variance, which I think is really important, because I find that myself when sometimes I feel like I'm just smacked in the middle between a small and a medium when I'm looking for knit tops in a store, and nothing quite fits right. And you would think it would be easy with knits, but it's difficult, because there's otherwise the shoulders are too wide, or it's a little bit tight in the tummy but a bit too wide in some other parts of the body. So we're definitely going to make sure that we cater to a lot of variances of body types and sizes. So yes.
Yeah, and I mean the reason why it looks like that in stores, the store doesn't want to have like too many sizes. It's gonna take up a lot of space and a lot of. It is a cost for them to handle this, and also in production to make 10 sizes or to make 20 sizes. It is more for them to handle as well and to keep track on everything. So it's a cheaper way of doing it. And yeah, as you say, usually it's not all brands do it like this, but it's quite common that small, medium, large, then it's just you take, in European sizes, you take every other size basically. So you jump over one size. And if you then fall in between those two sizes, it is a little bit tricky, because for me, for example, right now, the size that I am in, small is too tight, definitely too tight. But medium, it's a little bit too big. I'm right in between. So, this is why we have chosen we are going to keep all sizes, because we don't have any, we don't have to keep them in store or anything. So we want to provide as many sizes as possible, so you can really easily find your size. But I'm going to show you how it looks on the pattern, because it does give us a little bit of headache as well.
Spoiler, it's gonna be...
It's a lot of lines.
Lots of lines, yes.
Close
so
together.
Stay tuned.
Yes.
Yes. And another topic that we asked about was the description of the style. So if you haven't listened to the previous episode, please go back and listen, because I think it's going to be really interesting because I love doing this kind of episode. We're definitely lifting the lid of all the things that goes on, the small and big decision-making things. But so the book is going to contain 5 different styles. A close-fitting t-shirt pattern with negative ease, a semi-fitted t-shirt, so it has a little bit of a curved in the waist. And then we have the straight tee, which has a little bit more ease. And then we have the oversized tee, which is like oversized with a little bit dropped shoulder. And then we have the raglan as well, which is kind of more of a straight tee, straight fit as well. But so it's tricky. Again, you can obsess over the details, but we're like, should we say tight fitting, or does that have negative connotations? I mean, how do we describe all the styles so it makes sense? Of course, again, we will, as several of you pointed out, show all the measurements in in a table format, so you will be able to gauge what kind of finish width the length all the styles will have. But again, it's also good to have words to describe them. And dun, 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 we have settled on 5 different names. With both names, should we drop the names as well? Should we do that? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And we also have given them names. Yes, they have.
Because that was also a question.
person.
Should we have
Yes.
them? Should we give name to them, or
Yes.
just describe the silhouette of them? But yes,
Yes.
no name, and we know we have settled on a name for the silhouettes now. So yeah, it was.
Yes.
We did
So-
a poll on Instagram, and
Yes.
it was like, okay, the majority rules, perfect, great, let's go
Dun,
for
dun,
this.
dun, dun. Name reveal. Yes, so we're going to start off from like the smaller to the over gradually get better. So the first one is the fitted top, which is the closest fitting top of all the styles, and the name of that is Liv, Liv, and Liv means 2 things, or more maybe in Swedish. It both means life, but it also means bodies. So
Oh, I
I thought
didn't
it
think
was
of that. Yeah.
yes, that's why I said I wanted to have it, because of the close fitting. So it's basically, because the close fitting, it's shaped like your bodies. Basically, it's going to be shaped like your bodies. So it has a double connotations there. It's the body's version of it. So you can imagine it's a little bit more close fitting, and as I said, negative ease. And then we move
And
on
it's also
to
a Swedish
Yeah.
name, or like a female name. All
female
of
name,
the names
exactly,
are like
yeah.
female names. So yeah, but
Yes.
I Liv, that was I didn't
Yes.
think of it like a bodies as well.
Yeah.
Smart.
Yes, sometimes I have it. Because I think I mentioned that when we set the names, when we went to. I think I mentioned that, but maybe I didn't.
No, not that.
Because I thought I had that.
Or maybe I forgot.
Yeah, I think I
Might happen
forgot it,
so.
because that was my main argument for having leave for the one. Okay. Anyways, on to the next style, the semi-fitted T-shirt, and that has the name Alma, Alma. So Alma, that's also a female Scandinavian name. It's a really beautiful name. I love it. And Alma is also, I guess, a version of the tree, again called alm. Sorry, I have no idea what it's called in English. But it's a beautiful name. I don't think we have any more deeper thought about that. I don't think.
No, we tried to keep the
yeah.
name quite short, so that they wouldn't be like too long. But yeah, it's kind of an old name that has, but a lot of kids are named that today. So it's a very. They can be both 93 or 7-year-old being named Alma. Goes both ways.
Beautiful name.
Yeah.
And I also just did a quick Google here, and it's elm. The tree elm is so it's like Elma, if that makes sense. And now on to the straight T-shirt, and which was an addition that we basically we talked about sewing a dream wardrobe, and then you had this realization, like, this is the part we are missing in the book. So the classic straight T-shirt with some ease, but not too much. So it's basically called the straight T-shirt, very straight up and down, and the name is Vira. Single V. What's it called? The single V. IRA. Vira. I think so. Again, a really pretty name. I don't know if it means anything else. Vira. Yeah, but it's spun. Because I didn't think about that. Again. Yes. We're now. Because now we seem smarter than we actually are. Because Vira means spun.
All right, yeah.
So you can imagine like a straight T-shirt that is like a circle spun, because sometimes you can get those straight T-shirts that has no side seam, so they're spun as a circular.
Yes,
So
that was the idea behind this name.
yeah, exactly. Again,
We thought long and hard about that one.
yeah, so long, so hard, so hard. All right. And then we have, and this is very personal to you, I think, Malena. Now we're moving on to the oversized T-shirt, and that name is Novi, N-O single V-I.
Yeah, and I mean, of us, the oversized tee is definitely more my cup of tea compared to your preferences. And my daughter is named Nova, so it was a little bit of a play on her name. And I'm actually wearing the oversized tee at the moment. This is a size 38. I'm more of a size 40 right now, and we have changed the neckline a little bit, made it a little bit bigger. But yeah, it's like a dropped shoulder, and this is the short sleeve version that I'm wearing right now.
Yeah, super great. Probably the style I will wear the least from the book.
Might be the one that I wear the most, so.
Yes. And finally, we have the raglan T-shirt, which is similar to the straight tee in terms of ease and body shaping. And that one is called LV. E-L single V. I don't say hi. Maybe you say double V. I'm just confused. But again, we don't use the double V in Swedish macho. That's why. So if we say it's a V, it's usually a single one. Yes,
I think it's the same. Yeah.
So I don't quite recall it, but it's a beautiful name, and it's also a little bit similar. I have a cardigan called AV, not to be confused, but LV is again Elv. Elv is probably from the Swedish word for elf, elva. I would imagine. I guess that. So we have lots of different versions of that. So think of it as Elvis, but without the S. That's the raglan T-shirt for you. So those are the 5 styles and the 5 names. I hope that you like them. And it was actually when because we had a long list of names, and we basically had like a naming ceremony. And it's like when you're having kids and you think you maybe have like 3 or 4 names, and then at birth you're like, okay, I can totally see it's XXX now. It was similar with the book, right? Because we didn't really have a lot of discussions. We were like, okay, that one 100%. It was funny. It was really, that was a very fun book meeting we had when we named our future 5 kids.
Yeah, and it's so nice to settle on the name and also settle on the silhouette name. Just so it's so much easier to talk about it, and that we know exactly which one we mean, and it just makes it clearer with also how you name the files in your computer and all the folders. It just makes it so much easier. So it was a good that this is settled, and thank you everyone for voting how to name the silhouettes. That really helped. It was because we were like, should we do this or that, but then it was okay, perfect. Now we got the feedback, so that was, thank you. It helped a lot.
Yes, very, very helpful. We also got a lot of requests as well that we will answer and see if those we can accommodate and those we won't be able to accommodate. So I think the most recurring question was, what cup is the pattern drafted for? And it's a B cup, right, Malena? Yeah. And of course, follow-up questions for that. I would love to have D cup options as well. And we won't be able to accommodate that in this instance. And when we to go more into the specifics of providing patterns and the pattern, you will understand why. But we have talked about, because this for fitting, this book will not be about fit, because we have a book about that already, Fit for Knits. But we have now discussed adding a section into the book that shows how to change the pattern and make a full bust adjustment if you need that. So we'll be able to provide that, and of course we will also show that in our book Fit for Knits. So, and of course how to sew darts and add all the things. But again, when you do a book, it can basically expand to everything, and that's impossible from both a financial and a marketing perspective. So we have to always reduce the complexity of the book so that it's actually like doable to speak. So that's why we had to make some tough decisions. So we totally understand that you would like that, but hopefully you will still feel serviced by the fact that we will show how to alter the patterns to fit a fuller bust. So yeah.
Yes, we have to draw the line, unfortunately, somewhere, and this is what we are able to do at the moment.
Yes, and let me see here. We also got a lot of like style suggestions, like neckline suggestions for boat neck, V-neck. Again, it adds to the complexity of the pattern, and it means, as we will soon, because we keep on hinting, but the more styles you add, the more lines you will have to figure out when you're tracing the pattern, which we acutely became aware of last Friday when Malena showed me the finished patterns we were going to show you just in a minute here, because that's why, again, you want to accommodate a lot of preferences, but you also want, and the most important thing is that the user experience is as frictionless as possible. And as soon as you start to add, say, darts, different more neckline versions, we are still offering several neckline versions, it's going to be so overwhelming, and it's going to be like the most insane netting of lines. Or we could do separate patterns for everything, but then again the book would swell and it would be so expensive that probably no one would feel enticed to buy it. So again, there are always these kind of trade-offs that we need to do, and that we have to figure out. And that's why I really like doing these kind of episodes, because it also gives us the opportunity to explain why we have made some decisions that maybe would make sense on paper, but in practice it turns out that it's a little bit too tricky to actually make. So those were probably the big thing. And also with stretch direction as well. We talked about that as well in the last episode, especially on US patterns. They have a separate horizontal arrow, not just a grain line, but they also show how to place the pattern pieces. And we asked about that as well. Is that something you think it should be on a pattern? Do you appreciate? Does it matter? And I would say a lot of people said yes, definitely add a stretch direction, especially from the perspective of a newbie knit sewist that can. We cannot assume that everyone understands that difference between those two. So we're definitely going to add stretch line as well, and that stretch line will definitely be clearly differentiated from the grain line, which is the vertical line that you align against the wale or the rib. Yeah. Are there any more? I think I tried to remember. We got so much feedback. I'm sorry if I missed some crucial feedback, and but we tried. And also, again, so thank you to everyone who contributed to our questions.
Yeah, and maybe we can hint a little bit about. We now decided let's focus on these patterns, these silhouettes. These make great illustrations on how to sew it, and really like the basics of the basic. But yeah, you could do so many things from them when you also, if you have adjusted the fit and really made it into your own, how to hack the patterns and how to. So then we started thinking like maybe that's the next book, how to actually use these patterns. What adjustments can you do to make it a boat neck, to make it a V-neck, to make it change other things, make it more into your own style. So we're definitely gonna take this in consideration and see what else can we include in that book to explain how to not do fitting adjustments, but to do style adjustments and how to change it, and if you want to do some more elevated designs to it.
Yeah, because we got so many great suggestions. For instance, doing like a Henley t-shirt, doing a polo t-shirt with the placket and the collar. So you have so many great ideas, and I totally hear you, because it would be so nice, as you say, to do some elevated styles. But we have plans for the future, definitely, for sure. But one step at a time. Now we have to finish this book. and not make it even more complex than it really is, because otherwise we're going to do a podcast in 3 years and we still haven't finished the book. So now it's onwards, upwards, upwards and onwards. So should we do now? Are you ready to do some screen sharing? And should we tell us a little bit of the backstory and why we're sharing this? So you can watch it if you're watching the video version.
Because before you start to work with things, you have so many, like, this is how to do it, and then you come into reality like, oh right, then we have this problem and that problem, and I'm gonna share the Illustrator file that I'm working with now, and I'm gonna, with every conference call you do now, can you see my screen? Is it am I sharing it correctly? Can you see the pattern now? Do you see anything?
No, yes, now the pattern is showing on the screen. It takes a
little bit of time. It's always a little bit nervous. So this is the Illustrator file for, I have up Vera the straight T now. As you can see, many different layers, working layers, and the sizes. And yeah, this is what it looks like at the moment. And as you can see, lots and lots of line. The first issue that I came across when I started working with this, we have two different necklines, a crew neck and a bigger, a little more open, wider neckline as well. Yeah, wider neckline. So those both are included in the pattern, and then you have different ribs or attachments to the neckline attachments. So you have both in for the smaller neckline then and for the bigger neckline, and you have both pattern pieces for if the neckline attachment is in rib or if it is in shell fabric, because then you have to have different lengths to accommodate for the different stretch in the fabric. But yeah, when you have two different necklines, I try to, we say pack the patterns in different ways. Like the normal thing is to have the chest line, the height as 0, like the neckline will grow then, and but here we have actually changed it, so the neckline stays the same at the center front line, and then it gradually, the chest line then gradually becomes lower, because otherwise when we had two necklines it was just a hot mess to see the difference, which it was just impossible. And now let me explain here. This looks a little bit crazy, but as I said before, we want to have the PDF file also with stitch lines. So here both stitch line and the seam allowance line is showing, which makes it, crazy. But this is obviously not how it will look on the actual pattern. I'm gonna delete now the stitch line just to make it a little bit more clear. I'm not gonna save this because then I will be very sad because I will undo it later. But yeah, as you can see now it looks much clearer. It's still a lot of lines in the neckline. What do you think? Is this workable? Do you think this is okay? We will also add pictures to Instagram for this.
Could you zoom in a little bit more so you can see the actual neckline? And the backstory to this is, as we mentioned up front in this episode, is that we are doing a extensive amount of sizes. I think probably more than the most sewing pattern books has done, and what most sewing pattern magazines offer. So we are definitely this is how shall I say. This is the challenge when we're trying to do what we are doing, is providing a very extensive size range and also make it like productive. Because if sometimes you're in a situation, even though we have a lot of a good size range, you might need to grade between sizes. So for instance, if your bust may be a size 42, but your hips is a size 44, then it's really lovely to be able to grade out at the lower part to a size 44. So that means that it's very beneficial to have all the sizes aligned to each other like this. But as we can show if you're not watching the video version now. So what Malena has shown on the screen now is the fact that at the start, at the top, you can see the difference of each size at the neckline pretty clearly. But as it gets closer and closer to the center front or the center back, it basically blends into one line. And I would say that about 3 to 4 centimeters, about 1 to 2 inches, it's pretty much impossible to differentiate which size is actually the line. And I'm sure if you have ever traced the bird style pattern, for instance, you're very familiar with this happening, and it's get amplified because we have such small steps between each size. Again, if we had done X small, medium, large, then the difference will be a little bit bigger. So this is probably our biggest challenge right now. And is this unuser friendly, or is it acceptable? Acceptable. That's probably. I'm not saying it's user friendly, but is it acceptable? Yes, that's probably.
No,
how
and
we
I
should
think
phrase
it's. I mean, when you trace. Because you can't cut out these patterns, because we will have printed both on the front side and on the back side. So you need to trace it onto a tracing paper or something. And I mean, you get the starting point, and then as long as you get a smooth line, I think you are fine. If it's a millimeter off here and there, it's not going to matter. So I do think. And usually you have those, you can draw it by freehand, but of course there are these, I think French ruler it's called. Yeah. You can use those also, of course, to help. And this is actually cleaner compared to how it was looking before, because before we had the wider neckline, not so wide, and then it was crossing over, the smallest sizes on the wider neckline was crossing over for the biggest size on the crew neck. And then it was just like, this is not workable. So I had to make the bigger neckline a little bit bigger, just so there would be a little bit of gap, so you can see they are not laying on top of each other. I'm a little bit. It doesn't seem to me that we have this one aligned, like here is 0 grading, because then it means that the chest is looking like this, which could also be a little bit tricky to see. But then again, you get the armhole, you get the side seam, so I think you should be able to connect the tip pretty okay. Because I think this was easier compared to when the necklines were not on the same line and they were just like, it was impossible to see which line were which. But this is the thing that we are struggling, or like working on, like trying to find the best solution now to make it most clear and so it visually looks good, basically. And if you would have the PDF file or the projector file, obviously you can then turn off the different layers, so you will only have your specific size. I can show you, for example, now I'm taking back the stitch line and I am closing most layers. So now you just have one size, and this is how it will look then, basically. So if you have the files, definitely work with the layers. It's going to be so much easier than to see.
Yeah. Yes, I hope that everyone who's watching this can feel confident in that we'll be able to draft. And if you're not watching the video, just to explain what Malena means is, I mean, when you're adding several different sizes to a pattern, you usually have a point where you align all the patterns. So for instance, that could be the chest line, for instance, or the waistline, and if you want to grade between two different sizes now, it means that the chest line is slightly it's not 100% aligned, so it's kind of like a little bit slanted, and that is because, as we say, we have prioritized ease of tracing. So I guess it would mean that if you wanted to grade between two sizes, you might need to shift perhaps the pattern a little bit just to align it on the fitted sizes. I can imagine.
And the thing is, I mean,
it's not a big.
No, and the grading is exactly the same. For example, on my Hazelhen t-shirt, the grading is same. Then I can add a picture on Instagram just to see the difference. Then the chest line is aligned, like that is. It doesn't have this slanted chest point under the armhole. So the chest line is straight here then, but then the shoulder and the neckline is growing more at the top. So this is just like how the grading is exactly the same. It's just where you place the zero side, like the starting point of the grading, so that you can play around with. But the actual grading is still the same. It's just how you place the sizes compared to each other. So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. And here another thing I can also show you that you got a little bit of a headache. I can show you first on this one. This is the Leave the Fitted team. Since we have necklines, and we wanted to go all out on the necklines now to have also notches on them. And here we decided to do it our favorite way. You can place, when you have the attachment, the rib attachment, you need to of course sew it together so you have a seam on the attachment. And some want to place it center back. We want to place it just behind the shoulder seam because then it will be less visible. This is what you do this is a common practice in the garment industry. You place it just behind the shoulder seam. It is not visible then on the hanger, and it's not so visible when you wear it. So we have made notches according to that, so you can easily see where you have the center front, the shoulder, and the center back. If you still prefer to have the seam at center back, of course you can do that as well. Then you just ignore the notches. But that means each neckline has 4 notches, which is fine. But then again, with the grading, how do you place all the different sizes? Like where should be the starting point of the grading visually so the notches doesn't overlap with all the different lines? And this was impossible. For example, here, this is a center front notch. So here I have graded, like the starting point is there.
But you can zoom in a little bit more just so we can see,
Yeah, so I mean, it's going to be, here again, I have the stitch line as well. I'm going to remove it just so you can see how it will be on the pattern then. It looks better, but still, the line and the notches, they are going to start to overlap, and it will be even worse when you go on top. Oh, there's what's actually looking nice. It was just at the bottom, it was looking crazy. So then I tried to, but then starting point with the grading at this, but then it got problem up here, and it was just, there were no good solution for this one. It got messy somewhere, regardless of where you started the actual grading. So we came to the conclusion, it was a little bit sad, but we had to kill our darling and decided on the printed pattern in the book, we're not going to include the notches. Just because visually it is going to be so hard to see which notch is actually yours. We are going to include them on the PDF file and the projector file. Because there, again, you can use layers. So then you can easily close down all the other layers, and then you can use the notches. Because we have the notches, we want to use them. They are great help.
Yes, this was such an important thing for us, because I think a lot of you listening will agree that one of the biggest struggles when you're sewing a knit top is the neckband, the distribution of the neckband. The neckband should always be shorter than the neckline. However, figuring out how to stretch evenly, especially if you're not putting the neckband center back, or for instance, but of course also the front and the back neckline is uneven, so you always have some math or some stretch. So it's very, very easy that the stretch will be unevenly distributed. So for instance, you might end up with gathers in the front, and then the neckband will be gaping in the back. And I'm sure everyone who's ever sewn a knit top has encountered this. So we were both like, okay, can we do something that we haven't really seen others do, but could make everything so much easier? And as Malena says, adding notches so that you know exactly how much to stretch the neckband between the center front and the shoulder seam and the center back. Because doing these notches, that's what I always do this myself when I'm sewing knit tops, is that I always calculate first or do some kind of markings to make sure that this, because when I started to put effort into this, my necklines and my neckbands got so much better. So we definitely want to keep this as some type of opportunity. And of course, now that we don't have the opportunity when you just have the in the book the printed patterns, of course in the instructions we will explain how to do this anyways, and we also do it in our book Fit for Knits as well, and we're going to go even in more detail to make sure that both if you haven't the notches or you have the notches. And I guess a good thing if you have access to a printer, because a neckband is such a small file, so you will be able to print out the neckband in just a couple of paper sheets, so it's not going to be an expensive thing or a massive undertaking. So we thought that this could probably be something that could be acceptable, even though we are sad to have to let go of this idea in the printed book version, unfortunately. So yeah. But I'm very happy that we are still able to have it, because I feel so passionate about this, and the fact that it's going to help everyone who is sewing our styles to get much more beautiful neckbands, and it's especially if you're a beginner, this is going to help you immensely, I think.
Yeah, it's just going to be easier to work with, and as you can see, the notches looks uneven, but this notch here, this is a center front notch. These notches here are for the shoulder seam, and then this notch here is the center back seam. So this seam will be placed just behind the shoulder, and we have the same for all the different neckbands. And again, neckband both for the larger, wider neckline, for the crew neckline, and in both rib and shell quality.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a lot of pattern, different patterns. Obviously, we're going to make this also super clear with text. Now we haven't added any text to the pattern pieces, so it will be, of course, much easier than to know which notch belongs where, basically. But yeah, it was a little bit sad to let them go. But when you see, it was like, yeah, it's just not gonna be possible. And here I can also show that here on this pattern piece. We have to kill some darlings. This is do you call it roller neck? I'm always confused. In Sweden we say polo, but polo is different in English.
Turtleneck, I think. Turtleneck. Yes, turtleneck. Or half mock turtleneck if it's a half turtleneck, yeah. Yeah. So this one here we do have the seam at center back. So this is the center front notch. And yeah, it's just going to be... On this one I think we can keep the notch because it's less fussy. It doesn't overlap. Yes.
But yeah, and now all the pattern pieces are in black, but we are gonna, here is just a tryout that we are gonna have the back in red and front in black and the sleeve in another color. I don't remember exactly now. Here is a little bit visual how we are thinking. How it should look. But then of course here now they are all separated. This will be the next headache to actually we are gonna have to place them on top of each other on the physical paper. Otherwise you are gonna have to have like 15 different papers, which will be massive, huge book and too expensive. So we are of course gonna have to place them a little bit on top of each other, and that's gonna be the next headache, how to do that with so many lines. So yeah, so you could easily trace them as well. But that is future us problem.
Yes.
I'm dreading it, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But the only thing that keeps me calm in this is that we decided on having different colors for the different pattern pieces. So if we overlap, we have also we try to. I mean, I as someone who's is a big tracer, I have lots of points of views regarding this, but I feel like compared to say at least the old type of pattern magazines, it's going to be way easier user experience. And first of all, we won't mix patterns on the sheet, with the exception for the neckbands, of course, but those are you can use for many different styles. But so if you go to one side of one sheet, it's going to be one style. And of course, as Malena said, we're going to use different colors for the front and the back and the sleeves, which means that if we have to overlap the sleeves a little bit on the back bodies, it's going to be clear what is what pattern piece. And of course, if you watch the video version, you can also see that every line has a different dash. So think of it as a traditional kind of pattern sizing. So it's not a full what's it called, a full line, or so it's very clear between each size. And of course we will also add so you can see which size that goes, which size belongs to which dashed line. So hopefully we're also going to try to make the lines a little bit thicker as well, so when you put tracing paper on top, it's going to be easy to see. So we're not going to do those thin hairline lines. We totally understand that it's good to have a visual clue. But again, the thicker the lines, again, as you could see with the neckline example, it that also provides a challenge. So we have those tiny details that we're still working out. And I also had a meeting with the printer last week and talked about all these things as well. So we also have to figure out what's the best way of providing the patterns in the pockets. So it's so many things. This is such a massive undertaking. I mean, that's why I really like doing this episode, because this kind of episode I would find fascinating if I was outside this world and was like, okay, that's how. Because you don't want people to you want the readers to have the best possible experience, and then you realize in the decision making process that maybe not everything will be 100% optimal, because we always have to do some type of trade-off so that people will be able to buy the book. At least, I mean, we could do everything, but then we will end up with a book that everyone will be like, get a sticker shock, and they're like, I'm not buying that. We have so many paper sheets. Don't you understand?
And it's a little bit also different mindset compared to, I mean, we are used to doing PDF patterns, but now to how it is actually working on a printed pattern, like there is a difference. And here I'm curious, because we had a discussion about this. Now we are gonna try to fit everything onto one page. So like the leave fitted C is gonna be on one paper sheet. But I've seen different, and we are a little bit lucky here because we don't have that big pattern pieces, so they can fit in on one sheet, but obviously they are going to be overlapping. We can't avoid that. But what do you think if you have used these books and papers, and if they are like a really big pattern piece that it can't actually fit on one sheet? I've seen two different options here, and I want to hear everyone's opinion, like which one have you preferred? What are more makes sense to you? That I've seen one book that has made you take two patterns and actually put them together, and then you get a full pattern piece. Basically a little bit PDF mindset, like you put the paper together and then you get the full pattern. But another one I've seen is also that you, if it doesn't fit on one sheet, they basically slash it and then place the rest of the pattern pieces on the same sheet, but just in a different place. So you have to, when you trace it, you start with one part of the pattern and then you have to move your paper onto where the rest is placed and continue drawing there, if this makes sense. Which one do you prefer? I have not sewn so much with book patterns, to be honest. So for me, coming from like PDF pattern thinking, I was like, yeah, but then it was very intuitive to like place the pattern pieces together, or like paper sheets together. But you have not seen really this. This was a news for you.
It was. Yes, it was absolutely. This is such an interesting thing because we did a research and we bought lots of different pattern books to see how others have done it. And as Malena mentioned, the second version where you split the pattern piece in two, that is always, or as long as I remember, been the standard way of doing it. So, for instance, if you have a pattern piece for a dress or a pair of pants, of course, it's not going to fit into one sheet because the sheet has a length about 100 centimeters, which is a bit more than a yard. So then, for instance, if the front leg, you usually have, if that's called pattern piece 1, it's usually 1A and then 1B, and then you slice it, as Malena says, in horizontally, and then you shift the tracing paper and align with the horizontal part of the second piece. That's the standard way. That's how Bode does it, and a lot of the pattern books that we have seen use that. But it's a pretty famous Swedish designer. She has made a pattern book, or two pattern books now, Ann Ringstrand, and she used the method that Malena describes, where you basically align two pattern sheets and then you place these together, similar like you would tape together a PDF pattern, and then you continue it. So my initial take, it was interesting because both Ann and you, Malena, you come from the garment industry. You're not a home sewist in that sense, like maybe I am, and I'm sure a lot of you listening. And it was interesting that both you and Ann you gravitated immediately to that one. So I thought maybe that's probably a smarter idea, but it's very confusing to us that has been used to this older method. So to me, I was like, maybe this is like too big of a difference. I'm not saying it's probably might be a better idea, but it's not the standard idea, so it might cause some confusion initially. So that's why it's such a good question to ask in this podcast. How do you feel about it? And I hope we managed to explain it in a clear manner, of course.
And I think it was always two sheets that were together. It was not like a puzzle of like 10 different paper sheets that had to. It was like two sheets, and then the next one they were together, and so forth. Yeah. So yeah, because then you have a lot of more space to work with on how to place your pattern pieces. And I mean, both come with pros and cons. I mean, if you have the two sheets together, then you can just place them and retrace pretty easy, pretty quickly. And it wasn't, she at least, it might be just that she didn't have like, it wasn't so crammed. For me, it took so long to figure out the other method, but maybe that pattern sheet was also, it was so crowded, it was so lot, it was so difficult for me to find the different pattern pieces and figure out how to do it. But if you're used to that, I mean, you know what to look for, so you might be quicker then. But yeah, it was interesting to see like there were two different methods on this, and I also had a children's book patterns, and I was like, yeah, we should have made baby clothes. Those pattern pieces are like so small, no issue at all with placing it on one paper sheet and be happy about it. But yeah,
that's, or dolls. Let's make it even smaller.
Yeah.
Stay tuned to a very tiny tea. two very tiny teas.
Yeah. No, but this is, I can imagine that this is also a headache if you are making a book and it's like, I could do these beautiful garments and patterns, but it's like, yeah, but we have a limitation on how, not just the fabric width, but the actual paper width that we need to take in consideration. So yeah, there are, you can have dreams, and then reality hits you, and you have to adapt.
Yeah, very, very true. It's a good summary of this entire episode when dreams meet reality. All right. So again, of course, we would love to get your feedback on all the stuff that we talked about today. We should also mention, I guess those that are interested in the book may want to know when is the book out. Working timeline is probably early 2027 now, because we realize it's gonna it's an undertaking, and there are lots of other things that we also need to figure out as well when it comes to distribution and printing, and it's a lot. But the book is happening, it's very much in the works. And of course, if you want to contact us, you can either comment on our YouTube channel, Stitching Tales Pod, on our Instagram account, Stitching Tales Pod, and of course you can also email us at stitchingtalespod@gmail.com. Whew, yeah.
Yes, and we have lots of questions here, but if you feel like, oh, but you missed this one, or you have something feedback about something else regarding this, like, please let us know. We are really literally in the making of this, so you still have the every opportunity to make us pivot, to make us maybe not rethink
but not too much. Not too much. Not too much.
But maybe we have missed something that was like, obviously that's how we should do it. So we are really open for suggestions, but
yes.
As we showed today, there are some tough limitations. So we have to make compromises as well, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yes. All right. So thank you so much for listening, and of course we will definitely do more updates as we progress on the book, and of course do a follow-up to all the questions that we asked in this episode as well. I think that was all.
Yeah.
So yes. Thank you so much for listening. I am Johanna Lundström.
And I am Malena Hjerpe. Bye bye.
Bye bye.